And we are live.
Yes.
Welcome. Yes. Welcome everyone to the Connected for Real podcast. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman. I'm a marriage coach for women in business, and my specialty is that intersection where you are trying to find balance and it always feels like something is coming at the price of something else. So that's
Yes.
what we're talking about. And today with me, NaTasha, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am NaTasha Richburg, and I understand the intersection between marriage and business and children and life and issues and fun.
Yes. Yes, I told NaTasha, like, if we're not having fun, we're not doing it right.
That's right.
So this is going to be a really fun episode. We landed on the topic of change
Yeah.
because there's so much that is affected by the change that you experience. We are going through changes just naturally in our bodies throughout
Yeah.
the years, but also in our souls and our calling and the way that we interact with life. And that affects the people around us and mostly our husbands. So let's get into that.
Okay, I like that subject. That's my favorite subject because I change so much every other week. I'm sorry. Oh,
So, yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
yeah, see, I'm a mother of four and a wife of one. And I teach school, and I'm a life coach, and I write books, and I go out speaking. And I started the marriage in one way, self-sufficient. I got it all. I can be everybody's everything. And now I don't want to be your everything. I just want to be part of some things. And some of the things, like I only got flowers when you were in trouble. I want flowers every week. And that
Mm.
changed. He's like, who are you? And then sometimes I wanted to be treated like a woman, and sometimes I want to be treated like a girl. And he's like, who are you? So I have to explain who I am in every new season so he doesn't feel like he's losing his mind. But I understand sometimes it really is me, so I have to give him grace, God's grace, in 2 years to get it right.
It takes some patience. It definitely
It
does.
really does.
So let's talk about the specific changes you've gone through because you've done a lot of things.
That's right. Like I started out working full time, my husband and I, no children, traveling to DC, my career in understanding information technology to working my way in management. He kind of did his thing. I did my thing. We did our things. And then the babies came, and it's like we changed shifts. He went to night shift. I stayed on day shift. We kind of split responsibilities, and it was all good. But what I found, I did a list. My list had like 50 things on it, and his had like two.
Mm.
I showed him the list. I thought he was going to get mad. He took the list and started circling things he wanted to do. Now, this happened about 40 years ago now, maybe, yeah, about 40 years ago, because we're going on 43 years. And I said, Melvin, how come now? I asked him like 40 years later, how come you didn't fuss that day? He said, because I was embarrassed.
Mm.
I was like, I did something right because I didn't fuss. I just gave him the list, and he just took the list. And now he's the king of vacuuming. I
Wow.
vacuum nothing. Nothing. I hate to vacuum. I do not wash clothes. He's the king. He wash, folds, puts away. Because I just so despise it. That was on the list. And the other thing, once we got to the point of 4 children, I had no time because when I was home, I had the kids. When he was home, I had the kids. When we was home, I had the kids. And I was like, hold up, homie. Wait your turn. Only when I'm out. And then I got 1 day a month just to go somewhere and just do me.
That's amazing.
It really is. And it really worked. But now we did me, we did us, we had COVID, and I want to get back to us. So finding out COVID's been over, and we still trying to find our way back to us. It's been over. I don't even
Yeah.
wear my mask every day. I still wear it sometimes though, but not every day like I used to.
Mm.
So changes. It's really rough when, like, my husband, he was like, I'm just a creature of habit. I said, but if you don't change, you die. So
Mm.
to live, you got to change. That took like 7 years for him to catch on to that. I would always say, if you don't change, you're gonna die. You're gonna change, you don't die. So he had to figure out. It still take 2 years.
In what way did he change?
Melvin is the type, he could come home, sit down. Okay, let's just say when I first wrote my first book, right? So I probably wrote Christian books just for youth and young adults, just those kind of books. He didn't even read them. About 10 to 15 years in the marriage, he started to read them. So when we go out and he sits at my book table, I don't even have to sell them. He went from not reading them, not knowing them, that he sells more than me.
Mm.
So you see, that's a big change.
What do you think caused that change?
I don't know. I just think with him, it was just becoming more of a us than just him and me. I think that was the biggest change. And he could feel when people would ask him, and he knew the answers about my books.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's like you had patience to just sort of let him pick it up when he's ready.
Oh,
And
yeah.
putting it in his face.
I didn't even think about that. That could have been it too. Because if you don't want to do it, I'm going without you. If you want to come, come on. And it got to the point that after a while, he was like, I'll come. And then, can you set up my table? I'll set it up. Well, can you sit here while I go talk to somebody? Okay. And then and so it kind of worked that way. But I didn't I have the philosophy, if you don't want to do it, I don't want to make you.
Right. And that's hard because most women, and most of the listeners are women, but I do have to say hi to all the men. It's so nice to know that you're all listening. I have so many times been on buses or gone somewhere where the husband looks at his wife and says, "You should really listen to her. She has some great stuff." And I'm like, you listen? And he's like, yeah, to every single one. So, hi, I'm so glad you're here. What's ironic is that I don't work with men, so I'm fine you listening, but I'm really sorry I can't help you. But really, it's because I don't think men need the external help, because like you said, if you leave them to just be on their own with any type of, thing that matters to you, eventually they will be interested because they're interested in you. So
Right.
whatever road is going to lead them back to you is going to eventually be an interesting thing to. And I find that a lot. So what I started saying before is that a lot of women want to make their husbands a certain way because it needs to be this way, or I was planning on having this type of husband.
Right.
And I'm, really sorry to break it to you, but it doesn't like that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. One of the things that I always say to my children, what I learned early on back in high school, if you don't want me, I don't want you more. If you don't want to do it, I don't want you to do it. But I'm going to do it. And one thing I've learned, when I do it, I make it fun. Let me get my books together. Let me pack my stuff up. I'm going to do, and just kind of like sing through it and make it fun. So you want to come out and join the fun? Come on.
And that's a real skill right there. It reminds me of that story of what was his name? Huckleberry Finn. He has to paint the fence. And so he's like, he takes it from a chore to something he's really enjoying. And he's like, oh, this is so much fun. This is so much fun. And his friends all want to do, if you give me $1, I'll let you paint the fence, but only this part, because I don't want you to have too much fun. I want to do most of it. And so he ends up getting all his friends to pay him to do his chore because he was able to do that. And it's a real skill. It's a real skill to be able to choose to enjoy something that other people would see as, why would you want to do this, or
Right.
boring or annoying. One of the things that really changed doing the dishes for me was when one of the women in the park said, "What are you talking about? Washing dishes is like playing with water.
Yeah.
It's hydrotherapy." And I'm sitting there going, "What?" And then, you know what? On a hot day, why would you not play with water? It's so fun.
Right.
So, I'm not into doing dishes, don't get me wrong,
Right.
but when I have to do it, I put on music or I'll put on a podcast and I go all in. The kitchen ends up being so excitingly spotless because I just like decide. Is that like intentionality that changes everything?
I think so. Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things with, especially being in business and having children and having a husband, you do have to have you have to have that silver lining when it comes to it. What's in it for me? Well, we get to have pizza after we leave, or we get to, whatever, and try to bring that bubbly bubbly with it. I
Yeah.
try to bring the bubbly bubbly.
Oh, you know what? You said something really powerful just now. Is you set it up with the things you want. If pizza would make you happy at the end of the thing, then just announce we're having pizza. You know, like I remember I was really in the mood for frozen yogurt,
Uh-huh.
and my kids were, it was like a really hot day, whatever. I was like, if we get this, that, and the other done, we are going out for frozen yogurt. It was like my treat because I wanted the house clean, but everybody was in it. And it was just so fun because suddenly there was a really good atmosphere. And another thing that comes up for me when you speak about this is that first time when I was in college, I
Uh-huh.
had this, really very sweet friend, and we were very close during college because we were, both in the same boat type of thing. And one day she came with her nails done. And I said, "Oh, your nails are so pretty. It's so cute, good color." And they looked really well done. So she says, "Yeah, I got a manicure special special because I stopped watching TV." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I took upon myself that I don't want to waste my time anymore. So I stopped watching TV and I said, if I could do it for a whole month, then I'll get my nails done."
Yeah.
And just that thought of like, oh, you can treat yourself? Like, you can do that?
Yeah.
That was such mind blowing at the time for me. I did not know you can give yourself permission to do that.
Right.
And it works really, the same way, like you're saying, I have to do this thing with my books. I'm going to have to go open up a thing, set it up, do the whole thing. I'm doing it because I want to. But if I feel resentful to my husband that he's not helping, or he doesn't even know what my books are about, or he doesn't care enough to like, put the effort in, if all that resentment starts to bubble up, you're
Yeah.
not going to show up in the energy you want to be showing up as. And also the whole setup, the whole day, it's going to be draining.
Yes. That's true. That's true. That's true. And then just making it instead of a me thing, a we thing, a me, a we. And I do that in the marriage. It's we. We can't be where we are because I know how I used to be, Marilyn, but I want to see some flowers up in this house at least once every other week. And don't go to Walmart. Go do that. Look, I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to get them myself if you don't, but I prefer you pick. And I just will be quiet even if I hate it. Just do it, please. I need it at this part. And so as things change, he's looking at me. Another thing that's changed, I used to know every answer to everything. I don't know nothing anymore. I know nothing. What we gonna
Why?
eat tonight? I don't know. What you want to eat? I don't know. Well, we'll starve until you give me an idea. I might cook it, and I don't mind, but you got to give me an idea. I don't want to know everything anymore. I used to want to be everybody's everything. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't.
It's so beautiful because I actually watched I was part of a course where they were talking about all the stages of womanhood, and they were describing all the different organs and all the different lessons that we can learn from the organs and the way that they function. It was really fascinating. It was like an 8-week course. It was mind blowing how amazing our bodies are. But anyway, and what we could learn from it. And one of the things that you're saying now is one of the bonuses that they sent in the email, like, watch this video, it's about what we spoke about. And it was exactly about that like, you change as a person, and the things that excite you change, and the things that you're willing to do change, just because you've had more experience. Your interests are now focusing more on the stage of life that you're in. So you're in, the wisdom stage where you're like, I already knew everything, and I've done everything, and now I get to be more picky. I get to pick my head up and say, like, oh, we can do this differently, actually.
Yes. I call this the big W. I got big wisdom. Because now I turned 68 this year.
Oh, congratulations.
And my W is really big. It was little when I was 40. It was medium in 50s. It's huge now. And I just rock my W all over the place. And my W knows that just because I change doesn't mean everything around me changes.
Right.
And I have to have patience for that. I do have to have patience. But one thing I wanted to say, when the kids was little, this was when my W was littler. I love the fact that I wanted my kids to read, but I didn't want them to think it was an obligation. So what I would do is say, let's go to the bookstore and see what's on sale. Pick what you want, and I'll let you have a book. Then we'll go to the movies. Then we'll have fun. So they would go through just to satisfy me. And one kid liked science, one liked, I don't know, that origami stuff, and one liked Shakespeare. And I was like, hurry up. I used to make pretend I was so like bored and tired, but they don't know I tricked them. I tricked them into loving to read. And I made them, if they wanted anything, they had to file a full brief proposal signed by all parties. Our first proposal that I got, they wanted to not have off-brand tennis shoes. At least they wrote why they needed it, what it would cost, and what they would do to earn it, and they all four signed it.
That's great.
Yeah, because I used to make them read. I used to make pretend, let me take you to the library. Whew. I don't know what I'm going to do.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It's so funny because you're talking 40 years ago, and I'm thinking, like, now kids, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to write a proposal. Definitely not by hand. They might go on ChatGPT and say, spit me up a proposal explaining why I should have, brand.
But the grandchildren, I make them write. You want to ask me something, you got to write it. And I do not let them bring electronics in my house.
Wow.
Leave it in the car. I don't let them. And they pile their little stuff up and put it in the car, not around me.
That's amazing. I love that. I wish you could do that to me. Just like force all my kids to leave the phones outside. We're like, phoneless house. But the problem is that I use the phone and my husband uses the phone for things that we actually have to be on call for. So it's like not fair. I feel like it's just not, it feels out of alignment and out of integrity. But on the other hand, I think that also tells me something about my use of the phone and how
you're at a different stage than they are. And when they get to that stage, they can do it too.
Yeah. But I think just, if you get to a point where you're judging them for being on the phone too much, then you're probably on the phone too much. And I'm going to own that and say, yeah, probably. So today it's, this is a fun day to start this challenge. I'm going to see if I can put it away before they come home.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah. I'm just going to be like phoneless during the afternoon.
And another thing I do, And then I could tell they're going to start to do it. When I don't see them at the end of the day, maybe I went somewhere and they got home before me, I would want them to write on a sticky pad everything they have on and put it on a refrigerator. And so when I come in, if somebody say, well, I saw a kid that had on black pants and a green top, and I look on the refrigerator, that's not what they had on today. Because I would know what they would have on. And that was my way of knowing what they have on and not seeing them. And it would make them right.
That's cool.
Anything to make them right.
You know, I thought you were going to say like what they have going on. And we have a gigantic calendar.
Oh yeah.
On the side of our cabinet. And it's so fun because they have the concept of time from a very young age. They could say, here's where we are. Here's when this thing is happening. Count the days, put little notes of where they're going to be when. And even the young ones like it.
Yeah.
For me, it's crucial to know where the older ones are because I need to know. But, for the young ones, it's really fun to be able to show them like, look, this is how much time passed,
Yeah.
like mind blowing.
Yes.
1 second. I'm smelling burning food and I think my food's burning. So give me a minute.
Uh-oh.
I know we're live, but
you're cooking, baking. Uh-oh.
I put some vegetables in the oven before and I thought, oh, it was just like cook slowly, but they cooked fastly. Yeah. At least the kids are going to come home. There's going to be something to eat.
Very good. I like that. That's a wonderful thing. Yes. And then the other thing with the big W and life changes, my husband could cook one dish. I don't even ask for that dish. Just stay out of my kitchen. You can clean up if you feel like it, but that's it. Yep. And
so you don't. Okay.
Nope.
Before when we started, you said that every marriage is unique.
Yes.
And so the advice isn't necessarily what to do, but
right.
more of like a formula. So let's talk about that a little bit because this is a really great example of unique marriage situations where it's like you're two humans. So already you have two unique people who have to work together. Right. And you're not really, you can't compare between couples.
No, you cannot. So like one of the formulas, I really am strongly on intent. What is your intent? So when Melvin and I first decided to get married, we put a list down of things with each one like to do. And like, I love to cook. So I said, if you don't cook, then you can help clean the kitchen. I mean, I'll clean as I go, but you can at least do the dishes. And then I like to write the grocery list, but you can do the shopping. But what I found with that, he gets exactly what's on the list. And if I leave something off, he don't get it. I said, we didn't have milk. He said, you didn't put it on the list. I'm like, So that part of it, really helped a lot. But one thing about our marriage, this is different than some. If we have a disagreement, I have to give Melvin 48 hours before I can begin the subject. Especially in the beginning. In the beginning, it might have been 72 hours. Now that we kind of did the switch, we can even talk about it in 24 hours. And one time, I'll call Guinness Book. We talked about it in less than 4 hours.
Wow.
That's what it wants. So some people have to talk right then. That doesn't work for our marriage. But the intent is to talk. I trust that he will talk, and I wait till he's ready. And I just have to get over myself. And some people want to talk right now. It's the only way. It's the only way. In our marriage, I had to learn he can't do it. It's not that I can't, because I can talk the second we go through it and work it out. He don't want to do that. He just doesn't. So I had to learn to back off.
That's amazing.
Our marriage.
Yeah. I think that realizing that every marriage is unique and that the point of listening to podcasts and to being in this, growth mindset is to hear ideas, to get inspired, to find what other people are doing as, just sort of like hints of what's working out there in the world. But bottom line, it has to work for you.
Yes.
So, I had here a guest, Yael Trush, and she talks about money dates. Sit down and talk about your money and like open up all the bank accounts and have this whole conversation about what's where and where's what and what are our goals and whatever. Really, like every single week, set a time and have a money date. And I tried it a couple times. It doesn't work for us.
Mm-mm.
We like to walk and talk. We don't
Right.
want to have the computers open. We don't want to feel like it's so heavy. We just want to be outside. So we're either going for a drive or we're walking and we're just letting the conversation flow. And I found that just, for us and our marriage and our communication style and what we built together in this
Right.
unit, this works. So it doesn't mean that money dates don't work. No, it means that it's just not our speed. It's not the thing we need in order to do the thing we're doing.
Right.
But I think it's really important to just give that space. Give yourself permission to do it your way.
Right. Because even when it comes to money, I didn't even know to other people told me that we don't do it like some couples do. So how we do it, we have one account that Melvin's paycheck goes to, and that does the mortgage and anything associated with that. Then we have another account that I have my university check and stuff go to that pays all the life bills. Then we have and then from that we send money to savings. I do that. And then we have an account that he can swipe. And every day he asks me, I want to get this. Do we have the money in there? And I'll make sure it's in there. So we have the swipe account. So every day I have a sense of where all the accounts are, and he approves the use. So he's the approval, I'm the doer. So everybody feels like they have their hands on it, but it's no mine and his. And then this is funny. And then he said, and then I sent him an allowance for his own account that he do whatever he wanted. I don't care. He asked for a raise.
That's fun.
I said, okay, you can have a raise. And I don't care what you do with it. I send you that money and that's just 100% you.
Do you have that for yourself also? Money for you?
Well, I can do what I want because I control all the accounts.
Ah.
And so before I do anything, though, I always run it by him. Yep. Yeah. And that's why you see women like sneak bags in the house because they don't want him to know. I'm like, I'm not sneaking no Melvin. I want some tennis. Okay. That's it.
Right.
Melvin. Or I say, we need the kitchen done. I don't want the kitchen done. We need the kitchen done. I don't want the kitchen. We need the kitchen done. Okay. And then he's the foreman over it. So I'll come up with the idea of what needs to be done. He'll say he don't want to do it. Then we eventually do it. Then we negotiate the budget with the contractor, and he's the overseer.
Nice.
I like that. I like that part because I'm not the overseer. No. Once the money part is settled, he does it.
Interesting. And I love that. I love that every couple has their, their interactions, their, one is stronger in one thing and the other one's stronger in something else. And sometimes you just realize that you're both not strong in something and you have to bring in help.
Right.
And it's really an amazing ability to do because then you're freeing the other person from feeling bad that they're not strong at this.
Right. Right. And the crazy thing is you don't know who's strong because I thought Melvin was stronger at money when we first got married, and he did too. And we learned he wasn't. I'm stronger. So I'm stronger at laying out the principles behind it. I just like him to have the approval. Then that's the check and the balance.
Right.
Right. And then I know all of the figures. I show him all the figures, and he just wants to know the figures.
That's really cool. So tell me about the recent change. What has been happening now that you're, transitioning into a new.
Yeah, the recent change is it's really hard for him to get used to the fact that I just don't know everything.
Hmm.
And I don't want to know everything. Well, how's which a kid is doing? I don't know, call him. Well, what's such and such doing? I don't know, call him. I used to always be the in between. I don't want to be the in between all the time anymore.
Hmm.
That's hard for him. He's still adjusting. It's going on 2 years now. It's real hard. And I said one of the things in this marriage, I always knew everything, and you were okay not really knowing anything. And now having to know is difficult for him. But I'm
Right.
patient. He's figuring out. I'm good. I'm not going anywhere, but you're gonna know something. I don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
I don't.
So what are you doing with all this extra time?
I do not, girl. You see, I didn't fill out the form. I do not have time. I look at what I do. I don't know how I do it. I really don't. I don't. It's really a lot. As soon as we get off here, I'm gonna go grade papers, then I'm gonna deal with clients, and I'm getting ready. I don't know. But I know one thing, I don't want to know everything anymore.
Right. Right. Do you feel less stressed now that you let that go?
Yes. Because that I don't have to know, that's one thing less in my brain. I try not to have to remember stuff. I try to write stuff down. That's how I missed it. So I try to write stuff down more than having to hold it in my brain like I used to, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that takes away a level of stress. It was stressful because he didn't understand. He heard me, but understand that I'm just not going to know everything.
Right. I like what you said, and I'm going to double tap here because something really important that I think people should hear, and that is that we end up taking on a role of in between person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times it's like my kids will scream at me when they're upset at my husband because I'm supposed to be what? Like, why do you think I can control him? Just because I am his wife. And just like that, I come to the room and my husband starts complaining about the kid because he's being disrespectful, whatever. I'm like, why do you think that I can control the child just because he's my child? And who put me in the middle of this? Right.
Right.
So I just find it so comical that the natural role ends up just falling on the mother, being
Right.
like, you be in between. And I recently told my husband, it's your relationship to own. I'm going to own my relationship with my kids differently than you're going to own your relationship with your kids. And, just looking back at my grandparents, when we would go to my grandparents' house, we would go to my grandmother,
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to grandma. And it's like, wait, but grandpa's there too.
Right. That's
He's there too. And we see him and we like him and we play
yeah.
with him. Why is it called grandma's house? Right. So it's just a little like those tiny little things that you pick up on and you realize, I think there's something to this, and this is sort of like how roles just sort of fall into place and things just happen like this. And then you have the opportunity to get intentional and
Right.
say, wait, I want it to be a different way. So, like you said, it may take 2 years to teach everyone this new
Yeah.
way.
That's what I give it. It usually is about 2 years. So I don't say I don't want to do this anymore and it happens. I
Right.
just have to say it again and keep saying it different ways. And I just don't want to be that person anymore.
There's when I was a graphic designer for 15 years
Wow.
before I pivoted to being a marriage coach. And, the pivot was really fascinating. I was pregnant with my number 6. I, was feeling called and I had to follow the calling and I was very uncomfortable. But anyway, when I finally started doing coaching, people were calling me for graphic design. And I would tell them I don't do it anymore. They're like, no, but just this one little thing. Like, I don't do it anymore. But it's just this like time. It's going to take you a second. Like, I don't do it anymore. And for about 2 years, people were
Yeah.
still
They
referring people
still.
to me. People are saying, I heard from this person that you're the best one. I'm like, I know I am the best one. And I'm really sorry to tell you that I don't do it anymore. And there's many new people who are becoming bests because there's more room for them. I am being called to be over here right now. And it fascinated me how many years later people are still calling for something that I don't do anymore for like what, whatever it was now, 7 years, 8 years.
Right.
Right? And like, aren't you a graphic designer? I'm like, no, I'm
No.
not.
No. And you do it with a smile. I'm just not that anymore. And
Right.
at this point in my life, I just want to be celebrated and not tolerated. And if
Mm.
I see I'm in a space where I'm not celebrated, I just remove myself. No goodbyes. I just remove myself. Sometimes it takes people 6, 7 months to realize I'm removed myself.
Wow. Wow. And that says a lot because you're, the places where you've worked and where, with all the IT and also the university and a lot of the things that you've told me about, you're the only.
Oh,
And
just
so,
only Richburg. And sometimes I have to say, one time I had a class of 110 students, and a white male came at me. I said, boy, look at me. I've been an only at so many tables. I've been an only at this institution in this department for so long. You're not going to talk to me like that. So fix it. And I said, plus I'm short. That just kind of lighten it a little bit. And so I don't take it personally, but people don't know. That's hard.
yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because it means that what, what makes sense to everyone else is not as obvious for you. And
Mhm.
it takes a lot more energy to get there. So in that, having that experience of being the only woman, the only colored person, the only whatever it is that, the only short person in the room. I'm kidding. Um, what happens when you feel like I don't actually want to be here anymore?
Oh, it usually is on a friend level. On a friend level, somebody who knows my heart, who knows my soul. It's kind of like the last 2 semesters in school, I've been saying, when you write, I want to read your soul. When I read AI, I know AI. I want the inventors of some of it. I don't want that. It's soulless writing. And I can tell when there's not a soul in it. So the only person you're fooling is yourself. So when they get me, they get my soul.
Mm-hmm.
They might not remember my name, but they remember my spirit because I love you enough to tell you the truth. A lot of people don't love you that much.
Right.
That's love. That's my soul.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Mic drop.
But it's true. It's true. I'm a big W now. So I'm at the point I speak my mind.
That's great. So let's get some real, practical advice. A
Okay.
woman's listening. She's overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. She's juggling a million things and she's feeling resentful
Right.
because she's doing it all.
Right. So first thing I always tell people when they feel like that, write everything down. Let your list worry. So it's taken out of your head and you just plain old write it down. That's on day 1. So the list, God will talk to your list. You go take a hot bubble bath. The next day, you can tell I love bubble baths. I take one every night. And then the next day, you come back and circle the things on your list. 3 things that have to be done in order. The rest, you let them stay there and let God worry for you. You don't need to worry about it anymore. And you do the first thing first, the second thing second, and third thing third. When they're done, go back to your list, circle 3 more things, and bring them over. And let God worry about them, and you do them in order. And I always tell them, let the list worry. Get it out your head. Because everything that's come to you to do is because it's for you to do. Let your big W work for you. Oh, everybody's not a big W yet. But those of you with little and big W's, let the list worry. And you just do one thing at a time, and it's going to be okay.
Wow. Just writing the list feels like it's going to be overwhelming.
Well, that's all right. Because once you write it, it's out of your head, and then close it and go take a bubble bath.
Man, you're making me get really in the mood for a bubble bath.
I mean, you'll be surprised. And when you open the journal back up, that's why I got journals all over the place. And you open the journal back up, and if you can't look at the whole list, just cover the bottom and just do the top 3 things. And know it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. You got to know it's going to be all right.
Yep.
It's going to be all right.
I love that. This is great advice. What else?
So what else if somebody's overwhelmed? That gets you through being overwhelmed, really. Put it in your, if you don't have a journal, go buy a journal at the dollar store and put your stuff in a journal, close it, and let God worry. First, take your bubble bath after you write it.
Okay.
And then you come back and pick 3 things. If you can't look at it all, just cover the bottom and do the top 3 things. That's it. And you have to know it's going to be all right. Then the next thing you have to do, what do you love to do? I love to crochet. I love to write. I love to go for a walk. Of the 3 things you love to do, if you love to paint your toenails, paint your toenails. Just do that. God is still working on your list. You already got 3 things. You don't have no reason to be overwhelmed. And you got to put something that you love to do in there. And even if you love to hug a tree, that's why I tell people, if your big thing is go hug a tree. It don't have to be deep.
Right. Yeah. Last time we spoke, I love that you were talking about soul work versus, there has to be room for something that lights you up. Talk about that a little bit, because I think that you just hit on it and it's so important for people to hear.
I always talk about in life, and I tell my students this, all of you got to pay your bills. So that might be head work, but you got to have heart work. And if you love to draw, draw. If you love to paint, paint. If you love to eat, just eat low calorie. Don't eat high calories. Watch that. But you got to have something that feeds your soul. You got to have something. I worked in information technology for 31 years in the federal government, and it became hard work. But it started as head work. And then I started taking that and teaching it. And that became hard work. And I teach it. Another hard work is being a life coach. But I don't take in all customers. I'm very petite. Just a few customers at a time. That's it. And they got to want to do it. But it's still hard work.
Right.
So head work and hard work. If you don't have both, you're going to die in your head. That's why you're going to feel overwhelmed.
You're saying people who are overwhelmed, they're not doing enough heart work.
Yes.
Which is a little bit counterintuitive, because you think that you're overwhelmed, you need to do more. But really, if you're overwhelmed, you need to do less.
If you're overwhelmed, it's because you're not feeding your soul. You're riding on empty. Hard work feeds your soul. So if you like to tutor, that tutoring will feed your soul, and then you'll go out and make that money. Head work. You gotta feed your soul so you can work from your head. And sometimes hard work and head work are the same.
Right. But even in, people say, okay, I'm going to open up a business and it's going to be heart work and it's going to be exactly what I want to do. But every single heart work comes with head work, and every single head work has the potential to have some parts of it be heart work.
Right.
You know? So you have to get intentional and really look, because it's okay to have both, but you have to know what's what.
But just like, go back with you being a graphics artist, what you did, you learned to work with people. You learn to think, even though they say they want green, you know they really want blue. You learn to read people's soul. They say they want an animal, you know they only want a pillow. And you know, and you start, and so what you were doing was head work that taught you how to do your heart work. And you said, I don't need to do the graphics anymore because I can work with bringing them together with the business and the marriage because of your head work. It drove you to your hard work, and now your hard work is your head work. I see it.
Oh, I love that. It's so beautiful that you were able to pick that up. You know what was interesting? Yesterday we had a networking event, and 3 people showed, like 2 people and me. Because, you know, from 9 people, everybody canceled. We ended up with 3, which was fine because we went deep and it was really great. So one lady sits, you know, on one side of me, the other lady sits on the other side of me, and we start introductions. So this one's a graphic designer, this one's a graphic designer, I used to be a graphic designer. So what makes us all different? And we got so excited about finding the differences. And it turns out that this one likes to work with solopreneurs, and she doesn't want anybody else on the team because she wants to help this person find their soul and their colors and what excites them and whatever. Meanwhile, the other one is like, if you don't have at least 3 people working under you, I will not work with you, because I only do companies and I only do things that actually matter. And I need to have, like, you know, deadlines and just get it done. And she says most of her people who she works with are men, because she just doesn't like working with all, like, the, you know, mushy emotional stuff. And it was beautiful. And like, they kept going ping ponging back and forth, like, I would never work with that, you know? And it was so fascinating. And then they turned to me and said, what was your specialty? And I thought about it and I said, actually, it's the family businesses.
See?
I was their graphic designer because I got to make peace. I got to be in that room and let everybody be heard and find out who makes the decision at the end and how do we get everybody on board and what needs to happen for you guys to, like, you know, respect each other, even though you're siblings fighting over inheritance and whatever. Like, everybody had their story and somehow they were all happy when I was there.
See? And that's what happened to me. So
Yeah.
your head work gave you the business thing you needed to do your heart work.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, my one of my clients in, you know, one of these families that I was working very closely with, he said to me, I don't know what you're doing here. You need to be doing, you know, coaching, because I helped him through some, like, real big issue. And I said, no, I basically thought it, you know, subconsciously, and it finally came to me after a couple of years, that in order to be in this room, I needed to find an excuse, and graphic design was my excuse.
Right.
But I got a little bit more W and I realized you get a little wiser, and then you're like, I don't actually need to be a graphic designer to be here. I could do this without. And I love it. I love it. If you guys are in a business and there is some sort of friction, come to me. But really, you know, the specialty now is the women in business, because I found that when a woman is pulled in the direction of, like, you know, doing her heart work,
right,
then the home ends up feeling like head work.
Yes.
And then you want to avoid it, and you start to, like, sort of neglect your family,
Right.
because it feels so good to be out here and do the
Right.
thing. And so really that's really important. The type of work I do is finding that balance of, like, how do you still stay excited about the things that you get to do as a mother and wife, while still, you know, really growing your business and doing the thing you're here to do.
And the
right?
good thing about what you do, which is meaningful, every person has a different fingerprint of what works for them. So
Right.
you can go to a book, but first you got to know who you are, what makes you tick. And that's the beginning of knowing what may work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no one answer. So watching podcasts and everything is great, but you got to put it into who you are
Right.
and what makes you tick.
It's so beautiful that you could pick that up so easily, you know?
But that's
Like
what I do. I'm a
it's
W. I told you I'm a big W.
it's so fun. It's so fun because I feel so seen. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's why my program is a private coaching program. Is because you get all of me and you get me on your, in your situation, like nice and close, so I can help you through all of it. And like we detangle and we make things work. And suddenly you're like giving yourself permission to get a dryer because until now you're just hanging your clothes, or you give yourself permission to go out and do the thing you wanted to do all these years and you didn't. And like that really excites me. It excites
Yes.
me
And
to
the other thing with you being a former graphic artist, you see color.
right.
And so you can see the colors coming together and separating and bringing them together and blend. You naturally see colors.
Right. Right. It's funny. Even when I was young, my parents would make fun of me until this day that, the ketchup is just past the red, the mustard is just
See? I
past the yellow.
love it. That's
Yeah.
the W working. I told you, my family. Can you imagine what my family goes through? Can you imagine? And they say she can see stuff. I can. That W is awesome.
Yeah. It's so fun. So fun. So fun. Okay. NaTasha, tell us, how can people find you? Where can they connect with you? How can they find your stuff?
Oh, see NaTasha Productions. That's my website.com, or just Google see NaTasha Richburg. Hit me up. All my information's out there, nothing secret.
Right? Any last words before we end?
Oh, this was fun. Know who you are. Don't let life overwhelm you. Get a journal, write it in the journal, and trust God will separate it for you. So
Yeah.
you can do first things first. Take a
I
bubble
love
bath. Take a bubble bath.
I love that. I love that. And hire a coach
Oh,
because
yes, yes, yes.
you could shortcut a lot of the noise and a lot of the drama when you have
That's true.
somebody who's holding your hand.
I'm so used to being a coach. I don't think to tell people to hire a coach, but yes, hire a coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything you've said until this point, I think is just all makes it so clear. So clear.
Yeah.
If you have a goal and you want to get there, you make sure you have the right people on your side telling you how to, get there.
Right.
If somebody has done that journey before, you don't need to invent the wheel.
No, don't. You really don't. And know anything you want to do. And I'm going to let you go after this, but I had a client and I told him, you're going to get to 4 digits, man. I could see it. And we worked up a strategy. He kept saying, I don't believe you. I said, just do what I say. Guess what? We got there.
Yeah.
I said, I told you. I know what I'm doing.
Right. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about is you can borrow your coach's confidence and ride on that.
Right
So
on.
it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but they think I can do it. And it's really helpful because I have so much experience. I could tell someone, you're going to have an amazing marriage and you just need to let go of a couple of things and refocus and make it work. But it's going to be awesome. And they're like, I don't know. It hasn't been for the last 20 years. I'm like, I don't care. I'm telling you. And then they turn around after we work together. Like, how did we do that?
Yeah.
Like, you just trusted. You join and you're like, I'm all in. Do what, tell me what to do. And that is such a good strategy. So yeah, I appreciate that you said that. That's a good example. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to be connected